Welcome to Uncovering Spirituality, where we embark on a journey of exploration and discovery into consciousness, energy, and the spirit world. Join us as we delve into the mysteries of spirituality and uncover the universal truths that connect us all. Hello, I'm Kathy Upper, founder of Spiritual Niagara. I'm also the consulting visionary and podcast host for Spiritual Canada, and this is Uncovering Spirituality. Joining me today is Melinda Astalios with Marconics Ascension Energy Healing. Melinda is an advanced Marconic energy practitioner and Marconics initiate teacher. She has been trained and mentored by Allison David Bird, CHT, originator and custodian of Marconics, and Lisa Wilson, co-founder of Marconics. Melinda has worked for over 15 years as a transformational facilitator, helping people experience the fastest, easiest path towards balancing their lives and empowering them to know who they truly are. Since her experience with Marconics, she has devoted her life to the Ascension path and assisting others in finding their soul sovereignty through the provisions of Marconics Ascension energy. Having experienced accelerated, profound personal shifts through Marconics, Melinda has a deep knowing of the importance and necessity of what is required for transformation and ascension beyond 4D. Through the clarion call, Melinda serves as a beacon, calling light workers, star seeds, and truth seekers who sense that there is a way back home that has eluded them within the constructs and distortions of this reality. Calling Burlington, Ontario home, Melinda also delivers Marconics classes and lectures throughout the Greater Toronto Area and across Canada. Hello, Melinda, and thanks for joining me today.
Hi, Kathy. It is an absolute pleasure to be here. I'm so excited and so happy.
So today we're going to be talking about Ascension and Marconics, and I admit I'm not very knowledgeable about either of these subjects, so I'm looking forward to learning more. So let's get started in our discussion by, first of all, helping us understand what Ascension is.
Well, I love this conversation and I love talking to people about what that is because it has a lot of different nuances. In my opinion, ascension is higher consciousness. So then that begs the question, well, what is consciousness? In my understanding, consciousness it's an energy that we can translate as an awareness. So that sort of like that flash of insight, that inner knowing. And it either contracts or expands based on the vibration of the choices that we make day to day and moment by moment. Basically, I believe it's the ability to be fully present in your life without judging yourself and your choices and without judging anything. Consciousness, in my opinion, is being aware and present enough to receive everything around you and to tap into creating from a place that's greater than what you're creating from right now. And that's the expansive energy. So that's why I believe it's an expansive sensation, feeling, knowing, awareness. It doesn't contract or exist in fear, shame, blame, guilt, regret, rage, and all of those frequencies. The moment that we do those energies, we operate as a reaction and we're out of that open space of consciousness and wonder. It's like when you were a little kid and you would be like, well, I wonder what would happen if I do this. I wonder what I would happen to if I did that. That's that space of expansiveness. We cannot do expansion and contraction at the exact same time. We have to make a choice. So basically, I think that ascension is making a conscious choice to raise your vibration, your thoughts and your feelings, your choices, your day-to-day thinking and doing above the fear energies of the density of the current reality that we find ourselves in. And you can see that this reality is rife with fear right now. And we're it's the goal of bringing yourself into higher levels of awareness. As we continue to go further, we continue to reach for higher vibrations, and we start to awaken memories of who we truly are, where we came from, and what we came here to be. And the higher we climb, the closer we are to returning to our original state of full connection with source energy. And in that connection, it's required to integrate higher aspects of ourselves in every dimensional bandwidth in this universal structure. And that's how I believe that Marconics plays, well, because Marconics is an ascension modality, Marconics speaks directly to this.
Well, I guess we should go from there to what is Marconics all about? I'm not really familiar with that as well.
It's because it's a new modality, and it's not like super worldwide like something like Reiki that's been around for a really long time. And so basically Marconics, it's an ascension modality that's supporting the activation of higher consciousness, higher awareness, and that space of ascending to higher levels of that awareness. It is the activation of this consciousness to help get people out of the fear frequencies that we're seeing that are hitting the planet like a flood at the moment. Marconics is a new energy that became available on the planet in 2013, and like I mentioned, it is specifically for ascension. And what happened was there was a grand ascension that light workers were waiting for, this paradigm shift in 2012, where we would all go higher and ascend together and make this big leap into higher consciousness. But that didn't happen, as the entire collective, the global population as a whole, was actually not choosing it. So we exist in a free will space, a free will universe, and this has to be a choice. Since this was not chosen, Marconics is plan B, basically. So the energy itself is to help individuals shed density out of their energy field. It's to help people release karma out of their energy field, and in doing that, they start to experience these lifts in their energy so that they can rise above the frequencies where illness and fear and worry and doubt and all that disconnection, that sense of confusion is residing. So I don't know if you remember, I think I was in high school. It was 1987 where there was something called a harmonic convergence. Have you heard of that, the harmonic convergence?
I have, but again, I'm really not versed in what it's about.
So it was really interesting because in 1987, light workers around the world, they chose this a day, basically, to hold this day-long global meditation, which activated and triggered what's called the crystalline grid, which is like a morphogenetic field that surrounds the planet, and the energies of this grid permeate throughout the all of the dimensions right to the planetary core. So this grid was triggered to come online, and it began to activate the human light body in preparation for us to begin shedding karmic density. So in 1987, when these light workers came together, that choice to do that raised the planetary vibration, which created this trigger in consciousness. So it was a pretty significant time. And what happened is, we were from that time, we were already set to start preparing to shed karmic density, to shift into higher consciousness. And that was the date that was chosen for that by the collective, was December 21st, 2012. That was a pretty significant date for a lot of light workers. So there were these triple dates that occurred: January 1, 2001, February 2, 2002, March 3, 2003, all the way up to December 12, 2012. And these dates indicated a series of stargates that we were passing through that were supporting us to clear density and karma in preparation for this shift in consciousness. But people, unfortunately, were not clearing enough of that miasmic buildup of energy and karmic baggage to get to a point of higher consciousness so that they can make that shift by 2012. And the target is to clear energy and release enough of the fear so we can hold much higher frequencies. And then we came to this great divide during that COVID period, because what happened was in 2012, people still had not cleared enough of this. They just were not able to do that. And so what is happening is that that great ascension where people would hold, hands and just sing kumbaya and ascend, that was not occurring. And so what Marconics is basically is plan B. And so what happened during that COVID period, when we came to that space, we in Marconics, we just basically call it, you can basically see it. It's a period that you could call the Great Divide. And after COVID, humanity was moved into this fourth dimensional corridor, this space where you could really feel where people were choosing lower gradients of energy, lower pockets of vibration, and other people were choosing to stay in higher pockets of vibration. This is this great divide. So basically, since human beings were not able to make that leap, that paradigm leap, that was set off in 1987 when things started really rolling. And then we were going to work our way up to this 2012 big state of awakening. It didn't happen. And we are in plan B right now. And Marconics assists with that. So what happened during this after this COVID, the whole entire planetary system, we are all have ascended to some level of space. We've all moved up a little higher. So everyone is in what's called the fourth dimensional corridor. That's basically a space between the third dimension and the fifth dimension. The lower versions of the third dimensional corridor look more like, strife and struggle. And that's where that contraction is, that lower consciousness resides, the fear, the shame, the blame. The higher levels of the fourth dimensional corridor is where people are able to survive and thrive in synchronicity, in more lightness, positive thinking, higher vibrational frequencies, and they're creating a reality based on those frequencies. So individuals are going to resonate with one of these two agendas: this spiritual space where there's more lightness and more ease. Now, also on the lower agendas, the lower portion of this corridor, there's a technological evolution that is taking place. And we can actually see that very distinctly as technology is moving dynamically, rapidly in one direction. Nothing wrong with technology. Technology is great. But in terms of ascension, there is technology that is benevolent technology, and there's technology that kind of creates this division. So there is an ascension process that's taking place that Marconics is very dynamically linked to, and either humanity is going to choose an authentic God-realized spiritual ascension or more of a technological evolution. And through their vibration, they're going to magnetize to one reality or the other. And we're currently in a second wave of ascension at this moment. And in order for true ascension to go into higher bandwidths of frequency and sustain those frequencies, we need to integrate versions of ourselves in higher dimensions, of which we have many. There are many versions of us in the higher dimensions. It's not just us here. And ascension basically is unifying and coming into merger and integration with the many aspects of ourselves in these higher dimensions and bandwidths of frequencies. That's how we're healing these fragmented aspects of ourselves and integrating our higher gifts and capacities, balancing our archetypes, the shadow selves, the positive and negative spaces, that we our karmic debris, balancing all of that, balancing these the negative and the positive within us. But in order to integrate these versions of ourselves, because there's so much fear and so much density, and so many people are in these lower frequencies, because they haven't been able to make those higher choices, because they haven't been able to expand their awareness and expand their consciousness, what's happening is that we've been phase locked into this third dimensional experience, and we're so bogged down with this heavy, dense energy, it's difficult to get out from underneath all of this. Marconics provides the necessary keys to release this phase locking energies that are trapping us in this density in actual quantifiable ways, and to release us from this phase lock state. So that's what Marconics is here for.
So we all have these various dimensions
Yeah.
as a part of our being, correct?
Yes, we're existing. We're here in this sort of this corridor between 4 and 5. So third dimension is solid, 5 dimension is solid, and the fourth dimensional corridor is an etheric space. So there's 7 gradients between us in this fourth dimension. So we're all landing somewhere there, and wherever we land is an indication of how our reality is getting created. Are we creating from fear, or are we creating from ease and joy and lightness? And that aside, besides the fourth dimension, there are many, many dimensional spaces and realms. There are 12 dimensional spaces within this universal grid construct. And there are versions that this is the part that makes people a little bit like, wow, what? There are versions, higher self versions of us in every bandwidth of frequency, 5 dimension, 6 dimension, 7 dimension, and versions, and also fractal fractions, fragmented versions of us in all the bandwidths of those frequencies. So remember, in each dimension, there's there are multiple timelines, there are multiple versions of us playing out in all of this complete structure. So that would indicate there's a lot of higher versions of ourselves that require integration. And ascension basically is the integration and merger of these higher versions of us that are aligned with wanting to go higher. Just like if people believe in past lives, there's versions of ourselves in past lives that there were the good guy, the good versions of us. And then there were versions of us that were not so nice, that played these nastier roles, because we are in a free will universe and we have to experience all the good and all the bad in order for us to be able to make correct choices and for us to have, if we're living in a utopia, if we're living in a perfect space, we'd have no clue what true compassion is if we haven't suffered. So all this suffering and the pain and the sorrow does have a purpose. It's not all, well, it's a terrible thing. Some of the worst things that have happened to people are the biggest gifts. I went through stage 4 cancer, and I was deciding, well, I'm not having any of that. And I moved through that with all the chemotherapy and everything else in a very different way than most people move through things like that. I was creating something different in my reality. And so that's what this ascension is all about. So in the past, we have versions of us like that, but who's to say that in these higher versions, there are versions of ourselves that are not interested in ascension. They're not interested in authentic God realized ascension. So when we say higher selves, well, which higher self are we aligning with? We want to align and integrate the most benevolent, appropriate future ascended versions of ourselves that will allow us, assist us to keep climbing higher as we start to integrate and assimilate and round off our personalities, our egos, our awarenesses, and pull in and draw in those higher capacities, those higher gifts that we have with each integration. And that's kind of a little bit of a surprise for some people.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. I, you know, the dimensional stuff, like it's hard for me to wrap my head around. I'm very science based myself, and actually, it was science that brought me to spirituality. So I do understand, that science has determined that there's a lot of different dimensions out there, right? And that there's an aspect of us that is in each of those dimensions.
Yeah.
So is that kind of,
That's exactly right. And
yeah?
it's
Oh, okay.
not the science, because the founder of Marconics is not, based in just metaphysical, um, just like channeling and light work. She was a BBC reporter, so she is very, astute and knows how to ask questions. And she's not just taking, oh, I channeled this, I heard this, and it must be truth. No, she is hard pressed to get, I want to really make sure that this is correct, this is accurate. I'm going to test it. I'm going to see how it is backed by science. So, Marconics isn't a healing modality; it's an ascension modality, and a lot of it is based in quantum physics. That's why I love it, because it's quantifiable. Okay, we're working with quantum entanglements. We're working with physics. We're working with basically sacred geometries that there are sacred geometries that a lot of modalities and people are working with that were appropriate to keep us in the third dimensional experience. Ascension means that that third dimensional experience is over. Ascension isn't like, oh, we're going to exist in 5D. It's just a better version of 3. It's not, it's a completely different reality for which we require a different mathematics, which is geometry is also mathematics. So the geometry, the sacred geometry that modalities are working with or that are being called in are specifically that are appropriately specifically being used for staying in this 3D experience. Ascension is going beyond that, which means we need something different. We need an intervention. We need a leg up. We need different geometry. We need different math. So instead of the Fibonacci mathematics in spiral, which is ingrained in everything in this reality, we're talking about something called, and I don't want to get into too much of that part, but we're getting into this, what's called this crystal spiral, which is a completely different configuration. The mathematics is different. And what's different about it is in the Fibonacci sequence, you'll see that it's basically the numbers that are created to create the next numbers are consumed to create the number that is preceding it. So basically, and it's not connected to 0 point. So yeah, so it's really interesting. And so, but that mathematics translates into geometry and it translates into how things are built and structured in this reality. Crystal
Okay,
spiral.
you're really losing me now. Like I don't.
Oh, yeah. So basically, all that to say, the geometry, the mathematics, the quantum physics is in goes part and parcel, works dovetail with this ascension mechanics, works with moving higher, raising your vibration, shifting yourself into going to a higher space requires something different than what we have been doing previously up until now. It's like we are doing something that has never been done before. We are ascending with the planet. And that
Maybe
requires,
maybe I could ask you there then, what Marconics is all about. Like what I guess maybe like what a session is and what happens
yeah,
when you do that.
that's a great question. So basically, I can backtrack to a little bit about the story because some of the listeners might be very, um, might really resonate with the stories of Atlantis and Lemuria and Egypt, and that's all appropriate and relative to Marconics specifically. But as I mentioned, so backtracking, Marconics is not a healing modality. It was specifically created for Ascension to assist the biological vessel to survive and thrive within higher bandwidths of frequency, so we can draw down higher energies and light codes that are actually flooding the planet. So what would a basically, like, who would benefit from Marconics? Marconics has a frequency that speaks to people who already have these codes in their DNA. People who have come into this lifetime and have been waiting for these frequencies, they can hear it and they can feel it. And anyone who's questioning that, there must be a better way. These are people that would most likely benefit and sense these frequencies as being different. People who can perceive the higher frequencies that are incoming, but they're aware that they're just slightly out of reach. These are people who would most likely be drawn to Marconics. So what would a Marconics session look like? Let's just say, for example, I think that's what you were asking, right? So basically what I love about it, just like some other modalities that we see, there's no ego involved. The practitioner acts as a bridge and the client and between the client and the higher self lineage. And the practitioner is basically a conduit, an empty conduit for the energy. So the higher self of that individual takes over and orchestrates the session and chooses what is needed in that particular session, not the practitioner. The practitioner is not choosing. This is not ego healing where the practitioner determines what is required. This is opened up to the vast capacities of the higher self of the client. Karma is released, density is shed, and that's one thing that is key and really unique to Marconics is some of these protocols are very specific in assisting us to go places that you cannot go with other modalities that have been created prior to 2013. Okay, so what happens is there's a couple of modalities. The no touch modality which is something that can be done ongoing. It's something that can be done once a week, once every 2 weeks. This session triggers the codes and activations and memories so the client's field can be cleared. What happens is it raises the individual's vibrational frequency by running the Marconics energy, which is encoded with light information through selected points on the body's own axiotonal grid. The axiotonal grid is sort of resembles the meridian lines in acupuncture that flow vertically, horizontally, diagonally throughout the whole body. And what happens is the Marconic no touch can be used as that ongoing therapeutic treatment. Now, the quantum recalibration, which is the really, this is very, very different protocol. This is something that is done once in your life. As again, this is to retool and assist the body for this ascension process, okay? And to get out of what we call this phase locking, this space where we're locked into these lower bandwidths of frequency so we can have experiences in this lower frequency. Well, we're done with this lower bandwidth. We're done with all the experiences that we could possibly have had. Where we sit now, humanity, we've had all the experiences from good to evil. And this whole cycle is rolling up now, and we've got to go higher. But we can't go higher with the energies and the frequencies and the geometries we have in our bodies that are designed specifically to keep us having these experiences. You see what I'm saying? So a retooling, a reconfiguration, an upgrade, so to speak, is required. So this recalibration is done once in your life, and it's done over a period of 2 days. It's basically 1 hour each day, and it has 2 parts. The first part is called the integrated chakra unification, which is the retooling, the uncapping, and the restoring of the chakra system back to its original multidimensional state, which releases you from the phase locking, which is a phase locking is where we're like sort of locked into this reality so we can have these experiences. So we stay here and balance our karma and balance all the things and do what we came here to do. That game is over now. And so this recalibration unlocks us from that. Our chakra system is, as you can see on the internet, if you look it up, and all healing modalities, energy light workers, healers, they know what this looks like. It's this conical shape chakra system. That's an artificial shape. It's been capped so that we can be phase locked to have these experiences and remain in this space, have this play this karmic game and clear our karmic burdens. But we haven't been able to release enough of that. And the problem there is that we need to be able to let that go. In order to let that go, we have to remove these chakra caps. Within the chakra caps, all this dense karmic miasmic energy is. So what happens in this recalibration is the chakra caps are removed, which immediately, instantaneously releases 51% of karma. That's huge. It's immediately released out of the system. So that gives the individual a leg up.
That's the first session?
No, that's the calibration. So some people
after the 2 sessions?
Well, some people can come for a no touch, and that's all they want. They just want the no touch session to incrementally raise their vibration. But what happens is some people go straight into the recalibration, and that recalibration, yes, it takes 2 days, 1 hour each day. And that is the retooling. It's a restructuring. It's like a psychic surgery, and it puts you onto a different bandwidth. Like let's put it this way: if you're going to climb Mount Everest, you're going to have a hard time doing that in a Fiat. You're going to need a 4x4 runner with provisions and big snow tires to climb up that hill. That's what this allows you to do. This allows you to have the required necessary light body configuration. It requires you to have the correct geometry. It requires you to have the right access to frequencies so that you can connect to those higher self versions we mentioned in a way that is required for ascension. Ascension, there are requirements for ascension. It's not just, oh, let's just sing kumbaya and be in a positive space. No, there are necessary things that you have to integrate energetically from a quantum physics perspective. It's not just, I'm going to think happy thoughts. It doesn't work like that. And so what happens is is that even the Merkaba, Merkaba is a Hebrew word, I believe, which is translates to the word chariot. So a Merkaba is a light body. It's like a vessel that you. It's a vehicle. Okay, so when you're meditating or you're in your sleep state, or if you're in transition from one life to the next, you're in your light body vehicle. This recalibration shifts you off the older light body, which is looks like a star tetrahedron, like the Star of David, but in 3D, to what's called a double octahedron, which looks more like a diamond shape. And that configuration, that mathematics, that sacred geometry, you see, this is quantifiably, this is not just woo-woo stuff. That allows you, that vehicle allows you to go higher. And the uncapping of the chakras is unique to Marconics, because you need to remove those chakra caps so that you're able to actually connect with those higher versions of yourself, assimilate those versions, balance your contracts, balance your archetypes, merge the masculine and feminine principles within your body, and very importantly, be able to pull down these frequencies that are flooding the planet right now, that people are having a hard time assimilating. This recalibration allows you to do that. In that respect, it's extremely unique, and that's why it is deemed, this is the vehicle, Marconics is the vehicle for ascension. And so that's why I'm super excited to share that with people, because it's just really, it's an amazing thing. And I don't know anything else that's doing that. The 3D modalities in this reality that already exist are beautiful and wonderful for remaining in that space. They work beautifully for that. But for people who are drawn to these higher frequencies, that are drawn to going higher, that know there's just something more, just something out of reach, this is what that's for. And not everyone's drawn to that, and that is perfectly fine. This is a free will space. Go ahead. Sorry.
What are you finding that people are experiencing? Now I'm conscious of time. I want to give us a few more minutes though to discuss, like, what are people experiencing after they're doing these Marconic sessions?
Well, there's a lot going on. So people will feel a rapid shedding of karmic debris. So sometimes that can be like ascension symptoms. You might feel, a little bit like flu-like symptoms, but not everyone has that. It's just like a healing, a shedding of all that old karmic density and miasm. There's an immediate sense that I've noticed with the clients, immediate sense of lightness. The moment they get off the table, their faces look like they've lost 10 years. They're like glowing. There's a sense of release. There's a sense of connection. There's a sense of awareness, consciousness, that they realize, wow, I didn't realize I had that before. Some people have reported understanding concepts or things, or being able to, let's say if a person was very, very shy and didn't have the ability to stand up for themselves, they're finding that they're more rounded in their personalities, that they have the ability to stand up for themselves and be in their integrity. They're finding that it's very difficult for people to do duplicity, that they're standing true and speaking their truth and being able to say no when you need to say no, say yes when you need to say yes. And light workers have a hard time doing that. They're just giving, and it assists you to it really helps to go into these higher spaces, to have these higher frequencies and understandings, to make these connections, and very importantly, that connection, that sensation, that knowingness between you and the highest version of you at source. It reconnects you back to your source, because we're reconnecting axiotonal lines, which is extremely important. We're removing chakra caps. We're retooling, reconfiguring your whole system so you can make that connection. Because here's the thing. We have been so used to looking to the guru, looking to the people who can tell us what's in our future. But who better to give you advice, to tell you what to do, to show you which way do I turn, what job should I take, should I live this way, is there something else? Show me. Who better to tell you that than you? Marconics, what I love, love, love about this is that this really hones in on strictly really getting that strong connection between you here and a version of you at source that has already made it, that has already succeeded. She has been there, done this. So, or he has been there, done this. Connecting to that version of you to guide you, because she or he has the entire roadmap, where other people might just have a little glimmer in one bandwidth, in one frequency, in one dimensional space, on one timeline of what might happen or what might be good for you. But your higher self at source has the entire roadmap. Who better to consult than you? The age of looking to someone else, in my opinion, we need to get rid of that. We need to, it's not like it's not like condemning that energy. It's like we've got to start to look beyond that and empower ourselves to know what we know, to activate our own consciousness. This is what Marconics does. This is what I love about it. It empowers you to know what you know, to reach higher, to hear that voice, to follow those breadcrumbs, because he or she has already had this conversation. Our higher self versions of Kathy and Melinda have already done this podcast, have already spoken. Well, what does she want to say? What does she want to talk about? And so following that and being able to connect to that, the sense that people get after the recalibration of that sense of feeling truly like everything in the universe has your back, is that sensation of making that connection. And that is the ascension, is to climbing up and merging and feeling so connected.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I've often felt that. Well, I always feel that, to be honest, that we need to, get people to connect with themselves. Like that's really what it's all about. People are, always looking outwards for those the how to make their life better, right? Not that, we all need a mentor. Like I don't deny that. Like we don't always all have all the answers, but learning to connect with our inner self and our higher self to make those decisions about our lives, like I believe that's the answer. So
That's
that's
I love
beautiful.
that's exactly right. Mentors, like talking to your friends, but it's almost like when I used to go to doctors when I was sick and I and had a, you're going to basically die, that kind of thing. My point of view was the doctor is someone that my tax dollars are paying, so he works for me. So I'm going to go to the doctor who has an education about something that I don't know about, and I'm going to have a conversation with that doctor. Now he's going to say, you need this and this and this kind of chemotherapy. I'm going to research that and I'm going to check in and see if that's required for me, because my higher self at source knows if that's appropriate for me or not. The doctor does not. The doctor is giving me very specific information, good information that I can consult with, that I may not have had, that might trigger something in me that will help me on my way. And the higher selves of my higher self and the higher self of someone I'm talking to as a mentor could be having a conversation. Yeah, this is good, because you can bounce off of each other. But ultimately, the choice, the decision, the knowing, in my opinion, should be left to, it's a conversation between you and you. That's why we go out and we do research. That's why we talk to people, to get information. But I did not do what doctors wanted me to do. Just saying, that's another conversation. I did what I listened, and I did some of the things, and other things I didn't do. I followed the energy of what was true for me. And that is a pretty scary thing to do when someone tells you, well, you're going to be not going to be here on the planet for very much longer. I'm like, yeah, no, that's your point of view. You could keep that. I'm doing something else. And that could be a scary thing. So when you have your own back in this way, when you're connected in this way, and it's very difficult to connect, you can't really connect to those higher versions of the version of you I'm talking about. It's not possible to connect with those chakra caps in place. They literally lock you down, phase lock you into not being able to do that, because we were designed, meant to stay in this band with a frequency to have these experiences. That's appropriate. And now the game is changing. It is time to do something else. Yeah, by all means, research, go out, talk to your friends, but it's you who is steering the ship with you.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. Now we only have a few minutes left. Is there anything that you want a thought that you want to leave people with, or anything that we haven't covered yet?
Yeah, you know what? I would just say to leave people with an energy of connect with your inner self and see how you resonate with the frequencies of that word Marconics, and see how you it's very tied into Atlantis, Lemuria, Egypt. And I would like to say there is a way to break out of these endless looping frequencies that are keeping people stuck on a treadmill of never being able to rise up, and where they know where it's possible for them to go, they just can't get there. Where they know that there's a better way to live beyond the escalating havoc that so many are living with, and so constantly in some form of fight or flight that's not even noticeable anymore, because it's like this constant low level anxiety that doesn't go away. Marconics protocols strips away the bonds that bind us to those limitations that our egos have determined this is the way things are. This is an illusion. And unraveling that illusion, Marconics helps with that so that you can live in a way that is really true for you. And that is an actual possibility. It's not just a pipe dream. It is truly a choice that you have. Every choice leads to a greater possibility or keeps you in limitation. Choice creates. Choice, choice, choice. That's the one thing I would love to leave people with, that we do have choices. You just have to get really clear. If someone gave you a golden key and said, can that you can reset your reality. Someone said, "Hey, you know what? You can reset your reality." My question to you is, are you willing to choose it?
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, thanks so much, Melinda. So we know that people can find you on Spiritual Canada. Where else can people find more about you?
I would invite people to go to marconics.com. There's a huge array of classes being held in Canada, US, Japan, and the UK. Also, they can go to justaskmelinda.com and contact me through there. There are free lectures and there are free lectures happening in Burlington and Grimsby and basically anywhere that people want to have lectures taking place. And people can find me on Facebook as well and direct message me there. So yeah, that's what I would say. That would be the best bet.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us today.
My pleasure. It has been so much fun. I really enjoyed this, and thank you so much for having me.
My thanks to Melinda Staulos with Marconics Ascension Energy Healing for joining me today. And thank you for listening in. Be sure to subscribe to us on the Spiritual Canada YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Spotify or iTunes. Until next time, I'm Kathy Upper, and this is Uncovering Spirituality.